Welcome to Exploring Opportunities for Simulated Classroom Environments in Online Professional Development. My name is Anthony Dove. I'm sorry I can't present this live, but hopefully you'll find this helpful and informative, and at the end you'll see our emails. You're more than welcome to always get in contact with us about this project as well as our larger project called Asset. Now, Asset is a $14.1 million U.S. Department of Education seed grant that was created to provide competency-based online asynchronous professional development to the rural Appalachian area. The framework that we use is that it is a competency-based education so that it is measurable and transferable workforce skills that can be translated into the classroom, and those skills are then shown through mastery that allows progression and individualization. We use the learning sciences to help improve instructional design to increase our learning throughout the process. Also, we're using learning analytics to help us produce, share, and interact with the data in ways that allow us to continually improve and meet the needs of our learners. And finally, we integrate simulated and gamified learning to produce high levels of engagement while meeting the learning outcomes that they have in the CBE. Now, the way we set up Asset is that they are set up as micro-credentials. Each micro-credential is 10 hours of professional development so that it is bite-sized chunks of material in a single micro-credential. We stack them together to create a 50-hour professional development package, which then can be used for many districts and for states for their annual licensure or 3-year license renewal. Currently, we have 10 different micro-credentials available, and 5 more will be available by the end of 2020. These are in the areas of elementary mathematics, elementary literacy, and classroom management. And soon we'll start working on middle grades and secondary as well. Now, within the simulated classroom environments, this has been an area that we're continually trying to study and see how can we integrate this into our classes as well for this online professional development. One of the things that this provides is really an opportunity to teach in a low stakes and gamified setting. This way teachers can experiment, try new things, try the skills they're learning from the professional development while not being afraid that they may cause some undue damage or undue poor learning or create some form of misconception in their students. And instead they continue to work and improve those skills. And also, this allows for the potential that we can embed the competencies in these simulated environments for the mastery. So it's not just that built directly into the CBE, but also through these types of engaging learning activities. So let's look at a couple of the different ones that we have explored and talk about some of their strengths as also where some of the challenges exist still in these simulated learning environments. One such environment is called SimSchool. In SimSchool, you get a web-based virtual classroom. It can be as few as one student in the classroom to a full set of students working in the class. One of the unique things about SimSchool is that they can create very different emotional intelligences within the students so that you can have a range of types of ways students act, which makes it great, especially when you're working on classroom management. It is fully asynchronous, so teachers can go to SimSchool, log in, and complete the SimSchool activity at their own time and at their own pace, so it really meets them where they are. It can be attempted as many times as a teacher wishes, and they get feedback as they go along. And one of the great parts about it is that the analytics is collected as students complete the activity, so that can be then downloaded and exported for information about how the students or the learners are going through SimSchool and leading the simulated environments. Now, it's important to also recognize some of the limitations that exist. With SimSchool, the primary limitation currently is this lack of ability to branch and build on previous actions with responses. So when I say that, if you think about in a classroom environment, a student says something to you, and from that response, it changes or impacts the next thing that you do. That isn't necessarily available in SimSchool. However, there are some alternatives currently that they have. One of which is that we can take individual simulations and split them one at a time. So maybe the first one would focus on that first action of trying to get a student to elicit some piece of thinking. And then when that's completed, it would open up the next simulation, which may focus on what would be potentially the most logical next step to help progress them through learning an activity. Also, within a single simulation, you can sequence items so that maybe it doesn't make sense to go object one or statement one to statement two. Maybe it's supposed to go statement two to statement one for it to make sense for student learning, and it can take that into consideration within the objectives. So there are ways around it, but it doesn't have necessarily that full natural flow you get when you think about teaching in a classroom. But it's still a great opportunity for learning, and the idea that you can work with these multiple intelligences can be really, multiple emotional intelligence can be really helpful for teachers. Another program that we've worked with is called Immersion, and this again is another web-based virtual classroom. You get a virtual coach at the beginning that provides instructions and answers and also goes through reflective feedback afterwards with you. It is a simulated classroom with 5 students, and it's actually all run by a single live actor. So everything is real time, and the reactions of the students and what is said is prompted by what the teacher says, which makes it feel somewhat like a real classroom. It does require that you set up a time and have that ready using Zoom as a way to actually meet with the immersion actor. And honestly, though, when you're in there, you don't necessarily recognize that that it is a single actor because they're using voice modulation machines to help talk from the different student perspectives, and they do follow the characters' kind of roles within that setting. One limitation, though, is on the research side, which is just like if you're doing classroom observations of students, uh, it takes time to watch, and there's no quick and easy way to instantly measure and provide that instant feedback to teachers about mastery. So it does take more time than some of the other methods. However, when you have experts using a rubric, they can grade it, get it back to the learner in a relatively quick time frame, but it does require some more manpower than some of the other simulation environments that exist. A third one that we've explored and are starting to learn more about is called UpTail. And this is more of an immersive learning environment that is filled with hotspots that allow for interaction at those locations. It can be created as a 3D learning experience, which allows the teacher to walk around the room if they have, and if they have like the 3D glasses, they can utilize those in this setup. It also does collect the data as the experience unfolds, but we're still in early phases about the development of this. So we're still learning more about what it can and can't do, where some of its limitations are. It seems right now that there may be some of those limitations with the idea of branching as there is with the SimSchool simulated environment. But like SimSchool, it seems like it can do that quick, massive data collection in a very quick and easy manner. But we're learning more about it, and we're really interested in if you've had those experiences, definitely reach out and let us know how you've used UpTail and what your thoughts are of that process. Finally, we're also looking at the idea of using Brightspace as a way to build our own simulated environment. You could probably do this with most simulation learning management systems, depending on what simulation options they have. And the idea here is that we want to have that ability to see if we can create a choose your own adventure type thing with branching activities. Like if a teacher chooses this statement, a student reacts in a certain way, and then that may give you more options as to the next phase, and that it can allow somewhat of a flow if you remember those choose your own books where what you did next impacted each aspect. And we find that to be really interesting. We're still, again, that's another thing we're starting to explore more with Brightspace as to how that works and if that may be a feasible idea or how we might be able to set it up with something even such as like Kaltura or with Camtasia. But again, we're in early phases learning about this process. One of the other limitations with doing this, though, is that also that's going to take a lot of time and resources from our project to build it from the ground up because there is less information and we'd have to be figuring out a lot of these components on our own. Whereas those other companies have a lot of the structure in place already to be able to work with you and to get your simulations off the ground. So still, we're interested, we want to learn, so that if we can figure this out, it's something that we can bring back to the field and to other people interested in working in simulated learning environments to help our teachers really learn in a way that can be very helpful in that low stakes environment. So again, when we're talking about simulated learning environments, it's really a unique and growing area. The AI that's in them is still continuing to improve. They're trying to new things every time that we work with them to see if we can try something a little bit different to help both our project as well as figure out how they can leverage that with the larger learning community. We love it because of the low stakes and high reward learning opportunities for the learners, especially when you think about that we're working with rural teachers across Appalachia where it's hard for them to maybe get the professional development they need. And this is providing that online learning opportunity. Again, there are challenges with AI, but it is improving and it will continue to improve. And it'll be great if we can continue to keep education on the forefront of using AI in effective manners. Honestly, whenever we use simulations and I think about with your own classes, what you might want to continue to consider are two things. What's the purpose of your simulation? And what do I need to analyze its success? If you continue to keep those two aspects together as you're using simulations and figuring out how you might use simulated learning environments in your classrooms, I think that'll really help gear towards which of those different simulated environments that currently exist can be helpful and useful. Again, if you're interested or if you use simulated learning environments and have some research or some of the experiences to share yourself, we'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out to us and we can set up Zoom conferences as I know everyone's doing now in our current situation. And I hope you enjoy.